Some 901 donations roll in.
Excellent. It's a pretty sweet lot.
Johnny, have you told a story about when you were a little boy?
Right.
Not this
Thank
year.
you. I see.
I want to grab that mic and let's get this one going.
All right, now we're going to do some challenges.
So one of the challenges is Johnny tells us a story about when he was a little boy.
Nostalgic music for Johnny?
Some nostalgic music? So you mean like music from the 70s?
Yes.
Late 70s.
Maybe something from the soundtrack of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Well, that wasn't in the 70s, but
No.
that might be pushing my age a little bit further than it is. But I'm just trying to think of a story that I have not told of my childhood before, because I've told a few on Desert Bus. I've told about breaking my nose multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had mentioned the other day that you've broken your arm quite severely, or is that a
I suppose so. Yeah, it is.
Demonstrate.
I guess it's another like interesting story that ties into Child's Play as well, because I had to spend time in hospital as well because of that. And I actually do remember the toy room in there, and I actually remember that the hospital in NRGH and Nanaimo didn't have very many toys, and they were picked over quite heavily, and so it actually does have an interesting tie-in. So I broke my arm when I was. I broke my arm in a very boring way. When I was really young, I was wrestling with a friend and fell out of my bunk bed and landed, as you often do when you're confronted with imminent danger to your face, you put your hand right in front of you, and I snapped my arm. And it was not a nice break, but it wasn't debilitating, and I was only for a little while that I did it. But because of that, I had to switch to writing with my left arm because it was too hard to write with my right arm. So I've developed a little bit of ambidexterity, a little bit of skill with my left arm. But when I was in junior high, where we had old-timey ragtime bands playing all the time. But
of course.
I really surprising no one, was not a super active and sporty kind of kid. I was a very nerdy kid. And I remember in gym one day we were told we had to play soccer, and there was a guy on my own team who really didn't like me very much. And it was soccer, it wasn't football, it wasn't rugby, it was soccer, or football if you prefer, for international football instead of American style football. But this kid that didn't like me very much decided when I had the ball that he was going to get behind me, so I tripped over him. And so I basically was tackled by my own player.
Team member.
My own team member in a game of a non-contact sport.
That's awesome.
And I fell backwards, and I think my legs actually flipped up in the air when I did, and I landed again on the same right arm. And it's interesting when you have those kind of accidents. I remember when I was a little boy, I was just when I was younger, I just cried and I was upset about it. But I was really mad.
Oh yeah.
When this happened, I was in complete shock, obviously, and I fell and my arm snapped in half. And it was I'm going to try and show you here. So it broke here, and you can actually kind of see a little bit, not really, but it broke right, there's a bit of a deformity there, and it snapped, both bones snapped. So I had it was obviously way worse than I thought it was, but I was still mad about it, and I fell down, and I pulled back up, and I had to hold my arm steady because it was wobbling.
Yeah.
And I I probably swore and said, "You terrible thing, you broke my arm." And he laughed at me. He's like, "No." And I was like, "No, you broke my arm, you bastard." And I shook my arm, and it was doing this, only in the middle. And I'm making Jer a bit squeamish. Sorry about this. Anyway, so then the gym teacher came over to see what was wrong, and he said, "Get back in the game, back in the game." I was like, "My arm's broken." And he said, "No, you're fine." And I did the same thing again.
Gym teachers are
Just walk it off. And the color in his face just went completely. All my team members were just, and players on the other side, just kind of backing away from me. I was just aggravated and loud and really upset. And he's like, "You go to the office right now," like I had actually done something wrong.
Yeah.
But how dare you break your arm? And
left. I'm sorry.
And so I
Sorry.
went to the office, and they said, okay, we'll call your mom. And so I sat in the office for, I was young and I was in shock, and I don't know how long, but it felt like forever. And it turned out they called my mom and the phone was busy. There was no call waiting, and there was no cell phones because I'm an old-timey.
Clearly from the music.
From the music, old-timey. And so they just
Didn't you leave
didn't
a
do
message with
anything.
the operator? When
I-
she's off the line.
I have no idea. And so then time went by, and everyone who came into the office looked at me and like, what is wrong with that kid? Because like I had obviously all the blood had drained from my own face, and I was holding my arm and just completely quiet, but obviously in some pain. They didn't give me any like aspirin or anything. It was just like, he's fine. And so eventually I said, is my mom not coming to get me? Oh yeah, her number's busy. I was like, oh, okay, could you call again? And they did, and like, oh, it's still busy. I don't know what to
Call me an
do.
ambulance.
And they did not. And so I said, okay, my best friend's mom lives like 8 houses down. Could you call her? My mom worked nights, so she had probably, like, the phone maybe got knocked off the hook, and she just didn't, she was sleeping. Anyway, so that's what it turned out to be. And my mom's friend came and told her about this, and then came pick me up. And then my mom was so mad. She was so mad because I think I was there for about an hour after my arm was broken. And then I went to the hospital, and the doctor didn't give me any painkillers, but he said, this is going to hurt a little bit, before immediately grabbing my wrist and elbow and just going like that. Anyway, so I had to get surgery because that didn't work so well. And so I was in hospital for a while, and I do very distinctly remember the toy room on the same floor that I was on, and that there wasn't really much there for me. And that doesn't harbor any resentment or anything, but like it's awesome. It would have been so much better because you lose contact with your friends and your family, and you're in there for so long, and it's hospitals try really hard to not feel institutional and gross, but they generally have to spend all their money on just making sure life-saving services are available for you, that you don't die or get worse. And so they're often places that aren't as great as they could be, and a little bit of joy of having like a game or a toy or a comic that you've never seen or played before is an awesome thing to have happen.
For sure.
Well, Larry would like to give you a hug. Or not Larry, new Larry. He understands, she understands, having experienced all those obnoxious adventures trying to come in and, mess the place up and kill things.
And we are now marking that as completed.